Are you all right? Are you okay? Make sure you stay tuned for the last point because this one I think is going to really surprise most Americans. Hi, I'm Dara and I created this channel to be a place where Brits and Anglophiles from around the world can gather and talk about British stuff. So thanks for stopping by. And if you'd like to be part of the Magenta Otter tribe, all you got to do is subscribe. I'm trying really hard to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers, so please subscribe. There are lots of things and habits in Britain that are different than in the US. I use the word weird in the title, but I don't mean that in an unkind way. I just mean these are things that are unusual for Americans. And some of them I think are great, and some of these differences I don't like better than the way we do them in America. So the last video talked about the things that I think are different in a good way. This video tells the opposite. Things that I have observed in my 20+ trips to Britain and observing from friends and family who are British. I'd love to hear your comments. Talk to me about what surprised you, what you agree with, and go ahead, tell me what you violently disagree with too. If you like the video, please give a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Just let me hear from you. First up is something that is not unique to Britain. It's just a very European thing, and that is the combo washer dryer. It's surprising to some Americans to learn that the washing machine is really a kitchen appliance. Because of the way floor plans work in British homes and the fact that they're smaller, they usually don't have a separate utility room, and so the laundry facilities are in the kitchen. And also, because of space constraints, the washer and dryer is often the same appliance. And I gotta say, I am not a fan of that for several reasons. First of all, the cycles take so long to wash and dry, like you're just drying your clothes for an eternity. And then you take them out and they're like not fully dry. You're like, is this damp and just hot, or is it actually dry? So it's a bit of a process. Also, you can't wash a load of clothes and dry a load of clothes at the same time, so it just takes longer to do your laundry in general. So I understand it might be a necessity in Europe, but now you know why so many people dry their clothes out on the line, because they want to move on to the next load of wash, and it just takes so stinking long to use a not super effective clothes dryer. So I'm going to mention this, but I'm not going to talk about it in this video. Yes, this is a very, very common thing that people not from Britain talk about and complain about when they go to the UK. The fact that so frequently you will find sinks that have two separate faucets or taps, one for cold water and one for hot water. And yes, this bugs the bejeebers out of me, but I'm not going to talk about it in this video because I'm saving that rant for my bathroom video, which will happen in the future because I got a lot to say about bathrooms. The next item is something that I have mentioned in my English breakfast video. If you like English breakfasts, I encourage you to check out that video in the iCard above or in the description below. In the breakfast video, I mentioned the fact that I don't like toast trays. And I understand why they exist, because if you're making a bunch of toast for a lot of people and you stack it all up on a plate, then the toast at the bottom can get soggy from all the steam and moisture from the hot toast. So I understand why at B&Bs they always bring you toast in these cute little trays. And I do think the toast trays are adorable, don't get me wrong. But I just don't like cold toast. I think cold toast is like a big, hard, dry, triangular crouton. And that's just not what I want to eat. I want to eat a piece of hot toast with butter melting on it, not a piece of really cold toast that I put my butter on and it doesn't even melt. Again, I think that this difference kind of goes back to the difference in floor plans. In the US, we're obsessed with open plan kitchens and living areas. So it's really the norm to have a kitchen open to a dining area and a dining table, kitchen table, whatever. And therefore, you just kind of put the food right on the table and there's not as much of a process of putting it all in serving containers and taking it out the door of the kitchen, down the hall, through the lounge, and into the dining area, which is not uncommon in Britain. In fact, in my flat in Cheltenham, yes, there's a video for that. That's what we have to do. The dining area is on the other side of the living room, and it's out the door and down the hall and around the corner from the kitchen. So if you're transporting a bunch of food, I can understand why the toast tray was invented. But it doesn't mean I have to like it. Okay, this is a weird rant. I don't know that you're gonna see any other YouTubers complaining about this, but the whole use of first initials instead of first names, or Christian names as they often call them in Britain, I think it's a little strange and I don't like it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, think about some of your favorite British authors. Think about J.K. Rowling, J.R.R. Tolkien, P.G. Wodehouse, P.D. James. See how they've got all of these initials instead of first names? It doesn't just happen on book covers. Like, you might go into an office in Britain and someone's nameplate outside their office says D. Sandland instead of Dara Sandland. So if I walk up to that person and I want to say something to them and I don't remember their name, I can't say, "Hi Dara," because I don't know their name because they're just a first initial there. So it really bothers me in the nameplate thing. Then they do that on credit cards. And again, like, this is a security thing. If my credit card just says D. Sandland instead of Dara Sandland, I just feel like it's too easy for someone to fake my identity because it doesn't say what my first name is. And then there's the mail. When we get mail from Britain for Ian, it says I. Sandland. When Her Majesty's Royal Tax Service sends Ian post, it will say I. Sandland instead of Ian Sandland. So that's something that happens all the time. So I think about my friends, the McGregors. Mom and dad, names that start with K. They had 6 kids and they named everyone names that start with K. So can you imagine if mail came to their house or post came to their house that just said K. McGregor? How would they know which of the 8 people living in the house should be opening that envelope? I'm a very practical person and that just doesn't seem practical. While we're on the subject of mail, or post as they call it in Britain, I want to talk about addresses. So when you send someone a letter here in the States, we know you always got to put a return address on it, because if there's a problem with delivering it to that house, you got to know where to send it back to. It's also kind of nice when you get a letter to know maybe who it's from before you open it. And I find that Brits very often don't put return addresses, which has been a problem when certain individuals who will remain nameless have sent us things and didn't write our address correctly by mistake, and then how do they get it returned to them? Many Americans might not know that Brits will measure their body weight in stone, and a stone is 14 pounds. So I just think that this is not as precise. Like, if you're dieting, it's nice to know that you've lost a pound or 2 and to have a goal of losing 5 pounds or 10 pounds, but to have to like measure your weight in 14-pound increments, I just don't get that. I think they often will say their weight in a mixture of stones and pounds, like I'm 9 stone, 5 pounds, but it just seems too complicated. Like, just put it in pounds or kilos if you live on the continent. And then there's Celsius versus Fahrenheit. This is so hard. I mean, I've been to Britain so many times and I still just can't get used to the whole Celsius conversion thing. And I know people will say, oh, it's easy, you just multiply by this and add that, but I still just can't get it straight. And I do prefer Fahrenheit because, again, I think it's more precise. to say that it's 95 degrees or 98 degrees or 103 degrees. It just is more precise. And when we're getting to be that hot, like, I want to know exactly. And just for reference for my British friends watching this, here in Texas this time of year, it's often 40 degrees every day, or maybe 39. It's so stinking hot. This pet peeve started when I was attending university. And I went to a college, university, where a lot of people rode bikes on campus. So you'd be biking across campus, quickly trying to get from your dorm to your class, and you would pass a friend traveling in the opposite direction, and they'd say, "How you doing?" And I'm like, don't ask me how I'm doing. By the time I open my mouth to respond to you, you're gone. You don't want to hear how I'm doing. You don't want to hear an actual answer to that question. Just say hi or nod. Like, literally, that's all we got time for. Hi. So it is a funny habit. And I've also noticed a lot of YouTubers will start their video by saying, "Hi, how you doing? How you doing today? What's up?" And I'm like, people aren't going to answer you, you know. So here is the quirky thing that Brits do. Instead of saying, "Hi, how are you?" or "How you doing?" they say, "Are you all right? Are you okay?" And I think that's so funny because it happens all the time. And in the US, if you say to someone, "Are you all right? Are you okay? Are you all right?" it's because we're worried about them. It means they look like hot garbage. They look like they haven't slept all night. It's like, "Are you all right?" Like, I would think that you were kind of insulting me if you said, "Are you all right?" Or you're like really concerned about me, like, "Oh, are you okay?" And so the first time when I had business meetings with British people on a regular basis, and at the beginning of every conference call or Zoom call, they would say, "Are you all right?" At first, I was mystified as to why they were doing that. And then I realized it was just a thing. So now, it still is funny to me. Every time I go into a shop in Britain, the shopkeeper will frequently say, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And I just think it's so funny. It's like, why don't you say what you really mean, which is, "Hi, let me know if I can help you find anything," instead of asking about my well-being like you care and like you want to hear. Okay, this last one is the one that I think is going to surprise a lot of Americans. We love red phone boxes, especially us Anglophiles. We just think these are the coolest thing ever. And it is sad that they really are a thing of the past. Not only who uses phone boxes or phone booths anymore in general, but also many years ago, British Telecom kind of got rid of these and started doing more modern, newfangled glass ones. So these cute red phone boxes are a dying breed. If you are traveling in the countryside or you're in the Cotswolds or someplace in a quaint village and you see a red phone box, go check it out, take a photo with it. It might be a defibrillator, it might be a lending library, it might be something other than a phone booth with a phone in it, but it's still a really cute thing. However, if you're in London, be careful, because in London, when I've gone in red phone boxes, they've often had two problems. Number one, it has number one in it, meaning they smell of pee, or if you're British, they smell strongly of wee or urine. Because especially if they're located near pubs, which there's a lot of pubs, so that's probably most phone boxes, people have quite a bit to drink, and on their way home, they just use it as a public urinal. So they smell really gross. And then the other problem is they're often full of postcards of, how do I say this on my family-friendly channel? Women in a state of undress, advertising services. So I remember walking through the streets of London with my teenage boys, and when we would approach a red phone box, I'd be like, "Oh look, there's a McDonald's. Should we go check it out?" So yeah, if you want to do the cute red phone box photo, be careful what phone box you open. If you're curious why I'm such an Anglophile, or if you'd like to know what all of my favorite things are in Britain, please check out the Britain Love Stories series. It's a 10-part series on my channel that talks about all my favorite British things. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, do something good in the world today.